everyone, Amy here with yet another aha moment. This one occurred to me after a conversation that I had with a woman who actually had lost quite a bit of weight and had been working out like crazy and was finally at a point that she really liked her body, except for one spot, her stomach. Now, I can relate to that because I don't know about you, but there's always that little bit when you sit down that kind of sticks over the top, no matter what size you are, it seems. So she was telling me how she went to the doctor and asked him if he could help her out and get rid of that, little part that sticks over her. Mine's a little bit bigger than a little part, but she had a little part that stuck over the waistband of her shorts or her pants. And he said, "Sure, I can help you, but you won't stand up straight again." And she looked at him like, "Say what?" And he said, "Yeah, you won't stand up straight because if I take out that skin, then when you stand up, you'll be like hunched over like this." So it made me laugh, and I started thinking, he's right. If we got rid of that extra skin that hangs over when we sit, then when we stand, we won't stand up straight. How many times have we wanted to change something that only makes another situation for us? It kind of reminded me of that story about how the kingdom was inundated with mice, and so the king called in some wise men, and they sat around. They said, "Well, what you need is a boatload of cats, because cats chase mice and get rid of mice." So this story, right? Where he brings in all these cats, and now his castle and his kingdom are inundated with cats. And so then he goes back to the wise men, and they say, "Well, now you need dogs." And he just kept exacerbating and changing one problem for another. And I just was wondering, how many times, though, do we do that? In an effort to get rid of one problem, we get a bigger problem instead. It also reminded me of a book called, I think it's called It Could Always Be Worse. And if you haven't read that book, it's a little like a children's book. But if you haven't read it, you might want to get it. It's actually pretty funny about a man who has a lot of people that move into his house. He's got a little one-bedroom hut, and they all move in, the grandparents, everybody, and he goes and says, to this wise man, I have no room. It's all crowded. And so the wise man said, "Do you have some sheep?" And he goes, "Yes." And he goes, "Bring the sheep into the house." He goes, "What?" He's like, "Well, he's a wise man. I'm going to do it." So he brought the sheep into the house, and a week later, he comes back to the wise man, and he says, "Listen, wise man, now I've got sheep, and they're all over the place, and they're breaking my furniture. Now what should I do?" And he said, "Do you have some chickens?" And he looked at him like, this man is crazy. How is he a wise man? And he said, "Yeah, I got some chickens." He said, "Bring the chickens into your hut." So the man goes, "All right, well, he's a wise man, so I'm going to do it." And he brings the chickens into his hut. And now he's got the chickens and the sheep, and there's feathers everywhere, and his food, and in his eyes. And he goes back a week later, and he's like, "Listen, wise man, that wasn't such a wise idea. Now I've got, my house is even more cramped with the sheep and the chicken." And anyway, he keeps telling him to bring more and more animals into this little one-bedroom hut. And finally, when he's just about had it, he goes back to the wise man, and he goes, "I can't take it anymore. I have no room." And so the wise man said, "Put all your animals back in the barn." And then he felt like he had a ton of room. And it's all in our perspective. So just a little bit of an aha moment when we look at ourselves or we look at our life, to look at it maybe a little bit differently, because we might see that our lives are pretty darn good the way they are right now. And maybe the small little thing that we want to change is only going to make a bigger problem in the end. Anyway, hope my aha moment helps you, and I'll talk to you next time. See ya.